What's going on, everyone? This is the Wisdom Matrix. This video is about something that I promised I'd talk about a couple days ago. I don't know about. I don't know. It depends on how good this video is. I might not upload it, but we'll see. And this video is about something that, like I said, I talked about the other day, called the 7 levels of density, or what I like to call the 7 levels of awareness, in a way, because that's what it seems to be. So what are these 7 levels of density? Where do they come from? Well, the 7 levels of density are what you could call like a raising of consciousness, like the higher the density, the higher level of consciousness, or the closer you are to becoming source. I mean, it's more complicated than that, but that's basically how it works. So where did this come from? It comes from a book called The Law of One. And if you want to find this book, there's a website called lawofone.info, and it has a couple different things on there. But specifically, we're talking about the 7 laws of the 7 densities, which are which I'm going to talk about right now. So what's the first level of density? Is what you could call primordial awareness. Basically, what this means is that this is what awareness was before self-awareness or movement happened. You could think of like elements or like rocks or something like that. They'd be the first level of awareness or density. It's what is called primordial awareness. Basically, all this means is just like the earliest forms of awareness. Awareness without what you'd call self-awareness or a whole lot of movement. And the second level of awareness or density is called, well, it's not really called anything. None of these really have a name to them, I suppose. But I suppose you could call this one movement or something like that. This basically what this means is that there's a movement. The awareness is a little bit more dense. It's a little bit more aware, but it's not self-aware yet. It's just like instinctual. Like plants and animals kind of fall into this category. And some pets and stuff are at the larger end of the spectrum, so to speak. They're between 2 and 3 or around that area, kind of. And the third level is self-awareness. This is where we kind of are at this current moment. I mean, we're entering the 4th level actually, but this is where we've been for like 70 or so thousand years. This is the shortest. All of these stages go around, and all of them are usually pretty long, but this one is the shortest one because it's the most intense, and it's usually the most. I don't know if I'd say destructive necessarily, but it almost seems to be the term that fits here. And like I said, like we're on the stage here. A lot of us are kind of going between that and the 4th stage. That's why there's been such a raising of consciousness that's been talked about lately. It's because we're moving into the 4th stage. If not, some of us are already there. So that's why everything's like I talked about this in my other video the other day. The enemies of mankind, or guilt and fear, or whatever it was. But basically, why everything seems like it is because we're becoming more transparent as a species, and this is happening because we're moving from the third stage to the fourth stage. Basically, this just means that we're all the so-called ugly things that we see in the world right now are there because they have to be let out in order to be seen and discarded. So that's why it seems like everything's kind of chaotic lately. Because we're moving into the fourth stage, and the fourth stage, everything becomes a little bit different. The fourth stage is the stage of love and understanding. And in the fourth stage, we're more, loving. There's not a whole lot of, I don't think there's a whole lot of violence or anything like that necessarily. There are problems, but mostly it has to do with being too loving. You can have a problem of being too loving and you end up losing yourself within that paradigm. Sometimes that's happening now anyways, but all these stages are they all have to do with awareness, like I said. And basically it seems like the higher up the stages you become, the more aware you become. But even more than that, actually, the higher up the stages you become, like when you get up to the fourth level of density, you almost become, I don't want to say group mind necessarily, but you're able to, you're a little bit more collectivized, I suppose you can call it, collective mind. Not that you're not going to be an individual or anything like that, but you're going to be more within a sort of collective. I believe it's called, I forget what they called it, but so basically that's what's happening now, actually, to some extent. The reason why things are changing and all these things is because we're moving into the fourth density, which kind of, there's a lot of things to talk about that, actually, because there's a lot of things that are happening because of that. Some of us are already in the fourth stage, some of us are even further. But the fourth stage is basically about, like I said, love and understanding. And so the fifth stage is basically wisdom. Basically what this means is that you're learning the, I don't know if I'd call it lessons necessarily, but you're learning the lessons or the teachings of wisdom and light, basically. And basically, I suppose you could call it the flaw of this stage could be that you don't. When you're in this stage, everything's already pretty much perfect to you, so to speak. So you don't have any problem, dealing with. So you don't you feel like you don't have to deal with any of it because it's already perfect, so to speak. So you end up, so you don't do anything about it. It's more of an individualized stage, I suppose. Although I think there's still kind of a collective. There might still be a collective mind hive thing going there, but basically, so now we're getting into the sixth stage, which is basically combining the fourth and the fifth stages, which creates a sort of balance. And eventually, from the sixth stage, you reach a point where you can where you share all these like wisdoms with other people throughout time, because basically time doesn't actually exist. And the higher up these stages you get, the more that time, the higher the stages, the more that time doesn't exist, pretty much. I don't know if I'd say it exactly like that, but so that's why you have your inner wisdom. This is how you can find. This is why you can look at your inner wisdom, because basically your 6th level density being or entity from the so-called future is showing you or sharing with you this wisdom. And so this is why these things can come to us when they do, because there is no such thing as time. Time doesn't really exist, except it seems it does, because we're living in a physical sort of manifestation. We're living bodies. The other stages, they live with like light or something. They don't live necessarily like this. And so the higher the stages, the more one shares with other people their wisdoms and things like that. So like the 7th stage, it's like all out, and it shares everything with everybody, their wisdom and themselves. The 7th stage is when they become closer and closer to like melting with the divine or the creator, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, there's a lot more that I could talk about with this one, but this seems to be this is what is, these are these 7 stages. By the way, I'm not saying that these particular descriptions are the end all be all of descriptions with these stages, but it's like a starting point to maybe explain how this kind of works. So basically what we're doing is we're just raising our consciousness to the next stage. Some of us maybe even raising it higher. The reason why we came, like some people, what the book calls wanderers, what they do is they come from other stages. Some people come from other stages, like the 4th or the 5th or the 6th stage, even sometimes. And they come here so they can, I guess you call it like level up, like you're leveling up in the game. You're coming here so you can make yourself go higher in consciousness. This is why you'll see like masters and saints and stuff show up here, because they're trying to raise their level of density to the 7th level. I mean, there's probably more that I could talk about with this one, but I think I'll pretty much like leave it there, because that's pretty much it. This is the Wisdom Matrix, and if you like this video, please like it. Subscribe if you want to see more videos from me in the future. And if you got some kind of benefit from it, share it with other people so they can get the same kind of benefits as you did. This is the Wisdom Matrix, and I'll see you in the next video. Hold on. Yeah, there it goes.